Oh, it turns red. Mine stays the same color, it just gets bigger.
Yours stays.
Do not use that, please.
Oscar, you're a fucking gift.
Oh, god damn it. My sound recording levels. Jesus Christ. And welcome to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nothing. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy from Afar, and with me as always is my co-host, Chuck Bailey.
Good evening.
Hello. Guten Tag.
Or good afternoon. I suppose it depends, what time you listen to this, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, for me, it is Thursday.
It's not live.
Hey, there he is. Welcome back to Super Producer.
He even jumped the gun on his intro.
That's all right. Well, he's just excited to be back with us, huh? We got Ian Stimson here.
How you doing? You alright?
I'm all right. I'm a little bit of a mess. Just been traveling and running around a lot, so my brain has been in a blender, I would say. But I'm feeling all right. I'm excited to be recording with you guys. It's been a few days. The Premier League season's single digits away at this point, which is very exciting. So, we had World Cup fever. Now I've got Premier League fever. And I'm just super excited to be close to the season.
So, we're doing the top 6 today, are we? Because, I mean, the three amigos are back together. I know you two wouldn't have recorded a podcast without me. So, top 6 today, is it? Yeah?
Yeah. So, we just do top 6, yeah, because we haven't done...
I'm not going to tell him. Are you going to tell him? I'm not telling him. Chuck, don't say anything.
I mean, it's good to know that he doesn't even listen to his own fucking podcast.
He actually doesn't listen to the words when he's editing. It's just beeps and boops to him.
Yeah, I'm just seeing the waves.
So as Ian alluded to last week, we went through most of the top 6. Today we're going to fill in the one team that we missed out on, my beloved Chelsea. Get a bit of a deep dive on the tactics, the transfers, what we think is going to happen this season. Then we'll do the same thing for Chuck's Palace, see what we think, if they'll have a good season or a bad season, and where they might finish up on the table. A lot of new signings to talk about there. Take a break, and then come back and do a little bit of more formal prediction games with each other and see who can sort of hold bragging rights as the season goes on. How's that sound to you, boys?
Sounds like a plan.
Great. So I'll start us off. We are going to look at Chelsea, who I think the biggest news for them is that they fired Antonio Conte and hired a new coach named Sarri. And I am sorry to say that I don't know if he's that good of a fit, just jumping right into it. But before I get too carried away, Chuck, what do you make of what's been going on at Chelsea this summer?
Well, I was going to ask you how you feel, first of all, about Conte actually leaving. Do you think that's the right decision for Chelsea? Do you think it was time? Do you think he'd lost the dressing room or anything?
Yeah, I think we alluded to this a bit last week. It does seem harsh to fire him about a year after he just won the league. But it did really seem kind of the way that Pochettino might have this season at Spurs. It seemed like he really had lost the dressing room, like you mentioned, to the point that Willian covered him up with emoji trophies when he posted a picture of them celebrating the FA Cup, which was a bit hilarious. And then the FA retweeted that and got in a bit of trouble, had to issue an apology.
Oh dear.
Yeah. He froze out Luiz. Willian, we just mentioned. Obviously, Diego Costa, he texted him to say he was getting shipped out without getting any approval from anyone at the club. So,
to be fair, you wouldn't want to say that to Diego Costa's face, would you?
I guess that's
Probably
true.
Just smash you one.
I don't want to say anything to Diego Costa's face.
No.
Ugly face.
Evil cheese face.
Yeah. Oh, God, I miss him, though. He was a good striker. Big downgrade to go to Morata from that. But, yeah, I mean...
But not in looks, though. You upgraded in the looks department, going from Diego Costa to Giroud and Morata. Ooh.
Yeah, we do have a handsome front line.
I know, right?
Michy Batshuayi, too, when he's not busy hitting himself in the face.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a good-looking
kid.
kid.
To smash his face up a little bit so he's not, too pretty.
But yeah, I mean, things ended pretty poorly with Conte. He's suing the club at the moment, and Chelsea are suing him back, so it's like a whole legal battle that they're going into. It's like really, really one of the worst breakups I can remember in a while.
As the resident American and probably an expert on lawsuits, could you detail what exactly is he suing or Chelsea countersuing for?
Yeah, so Chelsea are withholding his wages for part of last season and all of the what would have been his upcoming season. So they terminated his contract instead of like releasing him, which clubs often do, and then still pay them for after they're not the manager anymore. They officially fired him, saying that they had quote-unquote just cause because of the way that he handled the Costa situation, and he repeatedly criticized the club in the press. So they have what they consider just cause for firing him, which means that they don't have to pay him. So I think that's about $9 million for this coming season and part of last season. I think it comes out to about £12 million that they're not paying him that he feels he deserves. But legally, they must think they have a case because their lawyers probably went through everything, and they wouldn't have done this if they didn't think they were going to win.
It's going to be a hell of a Judge Judy.
Yeah, exactly. He's suing them for the money that that he says they were supposed to pay him, and then also for damages and the loss of future earnings as the way that they damaged his reputation, basically. And he said that like if they had fired him at the beginning of the summer, he could have looked for a different job, but because they waited till like 2 weeks before the season, he basically has nothing he can do, and they're not paying him next year, so he can't. Like, he's just losing out on a year's worth of salary. And you would think that he also must have gotten legal counsel that he's going to win that. So I don't know what the hell is going to happen. It's just a really ugly situation. They'll probably settle out of court, I guess. I don't know how lawsuits work over there. I don't even really know how lawsuits work over here, to be honest. I'm not a legal expert or anything. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Never know. Might you get that money then for the stadium or even a transfer or two. Well,
yeah.
Not two for Chelsea. It's 12 million doesn't get you very far.
No. I mean, it doesn't get you very far for anybody these years when you're paying 70 million for a goalkeeper in the open market. For Allison who went to Liverpool, we talked about last week. But you did allude to the stadium. They had been saving money for a few years to like have money set aside for when they try to build this new stadium. That project is officially on hold because of like all these permits and Abramovich's visa issues and all that sort of stuff. And the higher-ups had said that they were going to reinvest that money into the club this summer. And of course, then they go out and make one fucking signing and that's it. And like all the rumors that you hear about are not about who they're going to buy, but about who they're going to sell. Willian to Barcelona, Hazard and Courtois to Real Madrid, blah, 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 blah. So it's not been a good summer in terms of the signings. Although Jorginho, who is the one that they did sign, does look quite an exciting prospect, and he has been pretty good in preseason. So he's coming from Napoli, which is also where the coach is coming from, so they have a good relationship. And he was kind of the heart of that team. He played in central midfield and kind of ran the show, both up and down the pitch. So that's an obvious target for them to be able to play, quote-unquote, sorry ball, which is the style of play that the new manager plays. And they do need him if they're going to make the system work. It's a very, very different tactical system to what they've ever played. My concern, though, is that no one else really fits the system. Like, there are a few places where it kind of works if you squint, but a lot of it, like, if they're going to play the way that Sarri likes to play, they do not have the players to do that, and so it does worry me for the upcoming season.
Yeah. So for someone who hasn't really seen Sarri at all, or watched Napoli or Chelsea in pre-season, what is Sarri ball? Like I've heard it bounce around quite a lot on Twitter. I'm just wondering what exactly is it? How does Sarri set up his teams?
Yeah, sure. Admittedly, I don't watch the Italian league that much, so I had heard that Napoli is fun. I'd seen them play in the Champions League a few times, but this is all from like reading stuff online and a couple of preseason matches. But from what I've read, he sets up with a 4-3-3, so like very 2006 era formation, very in vogue in that era. Which I love because that's when I first became a soccer fan. So I love a 4-3-3, but his 4-3-3 is a very fluid and moving, shifting system, where it switches to like a 3-4-3 when they're in possession and a 4-5-1 when they're on a defensive, like deep defensive. So it moves around a lot, which means you need a lot of players who are versatile. And Chelsea more recently have been going more towards actual like specialist type players, so that is part of the problem. In the four at the back, they have two traditional fullbacks, two-way fullbacks that go up and down the sides. So your Ashley Cole, your Hector Bellerin, your Zappacosta, who is the current right back Moses, in case you're looking at Fantasy Premier League or anything else, has not been playing in preseason that much, and when he does, he's coming in as a sub at the right wing position, not at the defense.
Is he really? He was in my first draft. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, get him out. Because Zappacosta has been, because he's not a traditional right back. So for him to be playing in that position with a lot of defensive responsibilities as opposed to as a wing back under Conte is too much of a burden for him. And we'll see if Alonso works out because he's not a traditional left back either. So the fullback situation already not a great fit because we have only wing backs. They want traditional fullbacks who go up and down, have a lot of defensive duties, but also do bomb forward. But one area where they do have good people is at center back. Because in the tactical Sarri ball system, there's 2 center backs. One of them is a really mobile, speedy guy to run up and down the pitch, do tackles, because they do tend to have a very high line and press very aggressively. So they need someone who can recover if a ball does go in behind. So that's Azpilicueta to me, or Antonio Rudiger if you want as a backup there. So there's 2 good players for that position, and then the other center back is a very passing oriented center back because he does expect a lot of creative vertical passing from deep. So to me, that screams David Luiz or Andreas Christensen, who's super young, but he had a really great season last season for Conte. One of the few bright spots for them last year. So I think at center back, they're actually pretty set in terms of fitting the tactical system and having depth. So that's a plus. And they had been linked with a few center backs in the market. Nothing ever came of it. I think Sarri might have shown up and was like, you know what? I think we're actually pretty good there. So that's the defense, but the really interesting piece that's very, very different from what Chelsea have done recently is in central midfield. Because in a 4-3-3, you need to have traditionally 1 destroyer and then 2 box-to-box guys.
Yeah.
But with all the interchange that Sarri does, it's actually more 3 mostly box-to-box guys, one of whom is more defensive, one of whom is more attacking, and we just don't have the players for that. So at Napoli, he had 1 defensive center midfielder who would drop deep into with the center backs when they had a lot of possession build-up, and that was Jorginho. He's a defensive, almost like a defensive passer central midfield. But then the other 2 is 1 box-to-box runner guy, so your traditional box-to-box Steven Gerrard of old, which Chelsea don't really have one of those. I guess if you squint hard enough, Conte could do that. Or you play Conte as the defensive passer, because Conte's passing is actually pretty underrated, I think. And then have Jorginho be the box-to-box guy, but he doesn't particularly fit that either. And then even less of a fit is 1 very attacking central mid who switches in and out with the striker. So almost a false 9. And Chelsea don't have that. They've been playing Ross Barkley there in preseason. He's actually been doing a pretty good job.
God, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I was just about to say, there's a name that you've forgotten about.
Yeah.
I know. When you watch the preseason highlights, he's been fantastic. And I was like, oh, right. I forgot we signed you. Because he played 2 minutes and then got hurt again. Because, of course, he's always hurt.
Well, you forget those signings when it's just about bumping up the homegrown player numbers, don't you?
Yep. Him and Danny Drinkwater.
Yeah, him and Drinkwater.
Yeah, I guess Drinkwater is a box-to-box, but he's not, good enough to be starting for Chelsea.
50 million quid, though. Nice. Good job there.
Well, we do actually have the cash to splash around on occasion, but they don't have
read that as waste.
Splash around, waste, whatever.
A chump change in the pockets. If we still had Oscar, I think he could fit that attacking central midfielder role. But Barkley has been doing it, and the more exciting prospect for me is if Ruben Loftus-Cheek can nail down a spot, he might be a really good fit there tactically. And he did play in preseason. He came back 2 weeks early from his vacation so that he could have a nice amount of preseason and sort of impress Sarri to try to make his name in the squad, which is awesome for me. That's dedication right there. Mm-hmm. And he did make a cameo in the most recent friendly at that position, and he had a pretty good run out. He did pick a squad number, too, that's an actual squad number that implies that he's planning on staying for the year. Number 12, which was Mikel's old number. But, yeah, I mean, one person who stands out there is Cesc Fabregas. Is not any of those players. He's not a defensive passer. He can pass, but he doesn't do defense. He's not a box-to-box because he's super fucking slow. And he's not a just attacking guy who can interchange with a striker and be speedy and move around like your traditional number 10. right? So I don't know where Fabregas plays in this system. Jorginho isn't going to be the defensive one because Kanté is the best defensive central midfielder in the world. So where does he fit? Does he play his old role or does he have to learn a new position? Like, I just don't think we have the center mids for that, and to me that's a huge problem. Like, when we talked about the World Cup, we said that central midfield was the thing that won teams, that separated out the really good teams from the teams that were just pretending. So that worries me a ton. But it would be super exciting if Loftus-Cheek can sort of do his Loftus-Cheek thing. But yeah, I mean, having seen him at the World Cup, do you guys think that a Loftus-Cheek, and you especially, Chuck, you saw him at Palace all last season, can play like a almost advanced 10, false 9 central midfielder, switching out in and out with the striker and moving around a lot?
I'm not sure in terms of switching in and out, but definitely kind of playing. What I found when we had the most success with Loftus-Cheek was when he was playing in the centre, and he kind of had the space to start running at people. So when he was in quite a high advanced position, he wasn't playing really that well. He wasn't really getting many looks at the ball. But when he took it to feet, probably about 40 yards out, and had the chance to run at players, then he was creating stuff a lot more.
How about his defensive responsibilities? Like, what did you make of his tackling ability and interceptions? Do you think he fits a system where he's going to have a lot of defensive responsibility to press and make interceptions and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think so. He's powerful enough, and he was just always performing really well up and down the pitch, really, for Palace. Obviously, again, my yardstick is completely different to how you would judge for Chelsea. But, you know, we said it all throughout the World Cup. It doesn't really matter. He just has to play. Like, I'd love to see him back at Palace. Absolutely. However, if he actually does start playing for Chelsea and gets the chance to shine, which I think we've only seen the beginning of what he can do, I think that would just be amazing. Amazing to see the young English player coming through at a big club.
Yeah, what about you, Stimmers? Do you think this could be Ruben's breakout season? Do you think that he needs to go on loan again? Like, what would you make of that situation?
The problem I see is just that when you rattling off players that Chelsea have got, and some of them I'm forgetting that I think would still get in ahead of Loftus-Cheek most weeks. So if he doesn't go out on loan again, then yeah, I fear for his starting time, which is a real shame because he's a real talent. So it's I mean, Chelsea, how many players do they send out on loan? You know, so
day one of the window they had about 15 out already.
Yeah, they just have a whole in Chelsea fan community. They're known as the Loan Army because there's just like so many of them. And they have been actually keeping a bunch of them through preseason that might actually stick around. It's really confusing what's going on right now because I think Sarri just wants to see as many players as he can.
Yeah, he's got to
Which is
assess
fair.
what he's got. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but like there's players who've been on loan for 8 years who like aren't really ever going to play for the club. Although, and I guess the flip side of that is that's what Victor Moses was until Antonio Conte came around. So, like, who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure there was a goalkeeper who had been, like, the longest-serving player in any Premier League club, but he'd never actually played for Chelsea. And he had just been on loan for, like, 15 years or something stupid like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
And the name evades me right now. But, yeah, they do send so many people out, and they just go for obscurity.
That system started to arise because of financial fair play, which then PSG and Man City just gave a big middle finger to UEFA and were like, we're going to completely ignore that. What are you going to do about it? Which pisses me off as a Chelsea fan because like Chelsea went so far out of their way to like game the system and figure out what they could do, which mostly consisted of buying every prospect in the world and then selling them off for massive profits. Although that's how you end up with Lukaku, Salah, and De Bruyne being ex-Chelsea players. Up front, he played with one left winger who comes inside a lot, so like an inside forward, which is exactly what Hazard is, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
And one traditional right winger who stays wide, puts in crosses, dribbles, and goes to the baseline. So that could easily be Willian or Pedro. So that's good, but what we don't have is a free-roaming, speedy striker like Dries Mertens, who is really, I think, the shining star out of that Napoli team, and the one that Sarri took from basically Hazard light to an elite player playing a new position. And we just don't have that. Giroud is slow. Morata, I don't even know what Morata does at this point. Like, what the fuck is he even there for? Torres version 2.0. And then Michi, who like actually could turn out to be that. He went on loan in January and had a fantastic spell at Dortmund before he got hurt. He scored 9 goals in 14 appearances for them. So he could potentially be that, and it looks like, is going to stick around this season. Sorry, said he wants him to play. But none of those guys, even if you're squinting, are anything like Dries Mertens. So to me, like, who are you putting up front, and what does that even look like? Because you need someone who can aggressively press and then move around, interchange with Hazard and interchange with whoever the attacking central mid is. But none of those guys have that skill set. So I genuinely don't see who we're playing up front.
No, do you see anybody coming in, or do you think it would be more of this is kind of the rebuilding year of just kind of, for Chelsea, of wiping out Conte's influence and just kind of getting a reset?
That is my deep concern, is that it is just going to turn out to be a rebuilding year, a wasted year almost, in terms of the transition and not being able to really do any of the things that they want to do, because they brought him in so late. Like, the Conte situation didn't get resolved quickly at all. Sarri just came in like 2 weeks ago, not even. There's a week till the season starts. They've made 1 transfer. And by the way, the window closes early this year. It's not like it caught them off guard. They knew this was coming. Like, this has been announced for over a year now. So, I don't know. The only good thing to me is that we do have a lot of guys who are good at passing and keeping the ball at their feet. And Sarri ball, like, it visually, so that's all like the tactical movement of the positions and the players, but visually, Sarri ball, if you want to summarize it in one sentence, is just a lot of one-touch passing and interchanging positions with possession play and aggressive pressing. Right? So, like, all of those things are things that Chelsea players can do, but it's just a matter of, like, who ends up where and how they execute that. So there's, like, some hope, but I am, like, not going into it with particularly high expectations as a Chelsea fan. So, like, putting money where your mouth is, where do you guys think Chelsea finishes up this season?
I'd say, obviously, it's easy to do top 6. Until you started being kind of insightful, I did have Chelsea at 3rd.
Until you started being insightful.
There's a first time for everything, right?
Episode 9.
It only took 10 hours.
Going so deep onto Chelsea. I still think they can. I think, you don't bring in a manager of that quality and have a team that is that good without them knowing how to adjust. Even though Sarri has had not much time with the players, like his sort of main players, he has got to know the ones that can come off the bench and things like that. So technically, you'd say probably his less talented players.
Yeah.
So I think if you can work that hard on your less talented players and get the system built into them so they know exactly what's expected of them when they're going to be the ones coming off the bench, your first teamers come back and then it all kind of falls into place because they should in theory pick things up much quicker, and ultimately you build a bigger squad, a better squad, especially with Chelsea Champions League this year.
Nope.
Europa.
Yeah.
Okay. So Europa League gives another good run out for those guys who maybe wouldn't get so much time in the league, and again to get the system even more ingrained in them. So yeah, I think it could be a bit of a rebuilding year, but I think they could take it back to basics. I don't see them doing a Mourinho of a couple of years ago where it's just completely capitulated. I think they're still going to get that new manager bounce. I think they're still going to be reinvigorated if Conte really had lost the dressing room in such a way. So yeah, I still fancy Chelsea to hit about third or fourth.
Cool. I mean, I would take 3rd and a deep run in the FA Cup. Maybe repeat winners of the FA Cup. I would totally take that. Stimmers, how are you feeling about Chelsea?
Well, I've got Chelsea at 3rd as well. I mean, I think it's mostly because out of the top 6, the only 2 teams who don't feel wildcardy are Man City and Liverpool. Man City haven't changed a great deal. Should be able to probably not exactly replicate what they did, but should be all right. Liverpool finished the season really strongly. I think they should be fine. But yeah, what you've said obviously about the manager coming in late and makes Chelsea a bit wildcardy. Man United have got Mourinho in a third season, so who knows? Arsenal got a new manager, and Tottenham haven't bought anyone. And Kane being ready for game week 1 seems a bit questionable. I think
he's never ready for August in the first place.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Season,
it's not strong in August, and apparently going to be ready for game week 1. So I think the other 4 seem a bit wildcardy, but I think Chelsea are probably best equipped out of the 4. So I've got them as third.
I like that you basically summarised an entire hour's podcast last week into a minute.
Yeah, thanks.
Maybe we should have had you around for that one.
Don't worry about it. Come to me. Come to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, I guess I'm feeling more pessimistic than usual this season, which isn't generally my style of fandom. I guess maybe you guys are rubbing off on me.
Sorry about that, mate.
But when you put it that way, with everyone else also being weird coming in, I think we could actually get third. Yeah, like that. I think of those 4 teams, I think maybe we do have the best setup to succeed, because I do think Tottenham, I said this last week, I think Tottenham are going to have a terrible season. And of United and Arsenal, I do think we're probably going to be better than them. So, which brings us to the other mildly cool team in London, I guess, as far as teams in London go. The team that I don't hate the most, Crystal Palace.
I'll take it.
What a ringing endorsement from Oscar there.
Absolutely, that is high praise. I'd take that. It just being, the team you hate the least.
Actually, Palace are weirdly like America's hipster pick, because they have cheerleaders, they have a bald eagle, they're red and blue. A lot of their chants are the ones that the U.S. national team just adopted. So, there's a ton of American Palace fans, which is really weird. So, I have a soft spot for Crystal Palace in general.
Yeah, I think it kind of is always been the American thing of, rooting for the underdog. And Palace have been that for so long with all of their problems that they've had, and in the past with administration, however many times. And, I don't know if we still are, but we were the team that had been relegated from the Premier League the most times. The only team that's gone up from the Championship playoffs in all 4 positions.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just an absolute roller coaster ride of everything, and it's crazy to think that Palace are in their 6th season now in a row in the Premier League, when 8 years ago the club nearly disappeared. So long and short of it was, the club went into administration. So administrators from the bank come in. I believe it was Barclays, came in and basically said you had to start selling off assets and all these kind of things. So one of those actually that we had was Victor Moses, mentioning at the time, who back then was playing as a striker and was then sold for 2.5 million to Wigan. And yeah, what happened was that, we went through a whole season, little things like knocking out Wolves, who were in the Premier League at the time, who are now back in, knocking them out of the FA Cup when we were playing a right back at striker because we just got rid of Victor Moses and he scored a perfect hat-trick in a very short amount of time as well, I remember. I think it was 8 minutes, 9 minutes, something like that. Danny Butterfield. Again, just highlighting how mental Palace is there. We're in administration and a right-back scores a perfect hat-trick to take us through the FA Cup.
And his name is Butterfield.
And his name was Danny Butterfield, yeah. Hero.
Which sounds like an American's invention of a British name.
Yeah. 8 years later, we're in our 6th year in the Premier League. And it's incredible. And
it's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and to go back to what you said, Ian, I would never have it any other way. And it wouldn't matter if Palace did go down or who they had or whatever at their disposal. I'd still love that club and still, for all my sins, would follow them everywhere.
So is that a thing you worry about going into the season, the potential of going down again?
See, last season...
Ooh, there was a hint of optimism there.
Since going up, I'd say for the first 4 seasons, it was just because of various different things. Obviously, the first 2 seasons, you just want to stay up. Because it was the year that Palace went up was when the Premier League money just went bumper. I think it was the year before we went up, Man United got 20 million from Sky for finishing first. And the next year, Cardiff got 120 million for finishing 20th. And
yeah,
then
that was
every
part
year
of that
since
was
then,
the American TV deal, when NBC took over from Fox Sports, they just put like an insanely large bid. NBC and ESPN were outbidding each other, and it was like $200 million a season or something.
So a lot of that went in, and obviously that's why the playoff final is the richest game in football, because it's worth, now I think it's worth a minimum of 160 million, which is why you see stuff like Fulham have just come up and they've spent 75 million in this window already. Wolves are buying people left, right, and centre, and so it's always just been about keeping safety, especially because the club nearly didn't exist. It still has to be run like a business, so they still had to make it kind of safe. So for me, as long as we finished 17th or above, I didn't give a shit. Now, you look across our seasons, I think we finished 11th, 12th, 13th, 15th and 11th, something like that. So all kind of okay, all things considered, with the Pardew run, where we went about 20 games without winning and nearly got relegated after being 5th at Christmas. Allardyce coming in and sorting it out and then retiring, saying he'd never manage again and going to Everton. Then having Frank de Boer, who obviously became the fastest sacked manager in Premier League history at 67 days. You get the pattern here, that being a Palace fan is a big labour. So guys, if you don't support a team, I definitely probably steer clear. Palace.
You swung wildly there, Chuck.
There's Chuck. There's the Chuck we know and love.
But no, for last season I was very, very hopeful. Unfortunately, it's one of the worst injury-plagued seasons of any team really ever. I think we, to have more injury days and more injuries than Arsenal is saying something.
Yeah.
But then even after, I think we went our first 7 games without scoring a goal, and obviously losing every single one of them, and then somehow, sorry to say again, Oscar will bring it up for you, somehow beating Chelsea 2-1. Interesting to know our first goal last season was scored by Azpilicueta. That's how good we were. So even 8 games in, we still couldn't get our first goal. For Hodgson to come in and manage to solidify the club, and in the end finish 11th, albeit in a very kind of truncated bottom half of the table. So maybe 11th flatters any team a bit when you think between 9th and relegation was 14 points.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
No, but it bodes well, I think. I have seen a few people say that Crystal Palace at any time are 2 players away from qualifying for Europe and 2 players away from getting relegated. I think it's kind of appropriate. But this year I am feeling very good. Quite optimistic actually. Which the hope is what kills you.
Yeah, the big signing today being Max Meyer. Did I get the name right on that?
Yeah, Max Meyer, who's come in from Schalke on a free as well, which is quite a good coup, I think, from the club. He's the kind of player who won't necessarily shine when you look at sort of goal and assist statistics, but kind of the work he does on the pitch is really, really good.
Do you think he is replacing what you lose in Ruben Loftus-Cheek?
I don't think he's a replacement for Loftus-Cheek, but he is a replacement for Yohan Cabaye. Yohan Cabaye, who again never really shone if you look at his stats, but if you looked at what he did on the pitch, was phenomenal. And there was no coincidence that for so many games last season he would get subbed off in the 70th minute and then we'd lose, or we'd concede afterwards. And it was like clockwork. You watch him go off and that would happen. And so I think Meyer can be that kind of player, the kind of player who you miss when he's not there, but he'll frustrate a lot of kind of idiot fans who all they look for is, did they score a load of goals?
Right.
The kind of people that we were saying about with Raheem Sterling at the World Cup. He's creating everything, he's stretching the defences because he's taking that sacrifice on himself because he knows he's going to get subbed off later. Fresh legs come on, the defenders don't know how to play then, and then England could score. And so it was a similar kind of thing at Palace, that Yohan Cabaye was a big kind of string puller there. He could win the ball back. He was quite tenacious with those kind of things. So I think Meyer is more of a replacement for him. Also, we've signed Cheku Koyate from West Ham, which I think is quite a good signing as well. Just to kind of build the squad. Not expecting huge sort of, again, miraculous numbers from him, but I think to kind of fortify what we have is very, very good. You know, people hate on Christian Benteke, but you know, you can't deny that the guy is a qualified, good Premier League player.
Yeah.
You know, first season with Palace, I can't remember how many goals he got now. I think it was 15 goals in the league. The season with Liverpool, where he was hardly playing and was getting derided for being dog shit, I think he got 9 or 10 goals. Then you had his seasons at Aston Villa when he was just fantastic. So
yeah, he was great in that Villa team.
Yeah, he was. Like, I don't know about you, but I remember there was a season in Fantasy Premier League where you could just have like Benteke and Charlie Austin because they were both 5 million and they were just banging in goals.
There was a double game week where they both scored like 5 goals. They each got a hat trick, and then they had a second game where they both scored. And I think that was my best ever fantasy game week.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So I think, you know, and I think Roy will do this because he brought Benteke's confidence back a lot. Because he was getting a lot more assists and more assists than he got before towards the end of the season. So more just knowing how to play in the system. And I think obviously, you know, our main weapon there, where there's still talks ongoing, but believe me guys, I will tell you now, it's all fucking bullshit. He's not going anywhere. Is Wilfried Zaha, who, you know, one minute he's going to Tottenham. Oh, now he's going to Dortmund. Oh, Tottenham have bid 55 million. Oh, we've told you we want 70. Okay, we bid 45 million. You know, just mental stuff everywhere, which gets me every year. Every year.
He'd look pretty good on Chelsea's wing. I'm just saying.
You know what? Yeah, there's two teams. There's two teams where I think Wilfried Zaha would fit in, and one is Chelsea, and the other is Liverpool. I don't think his play style would fit at any of the other clubs because he's not a quick passing tap player, so he won't fit in Arsenal, he won't fit in Tottenham, and he's already done Man United, and Mourinho would just stamp any creativity out of him and he wouldn't even fucking play anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Don't you? But like last year, I might have been reading this wrong, but what I remember, he was at his best when they shifted him to almost a striker position, and that was really when Palace's form took off. Also, is they kind of gave up on Benteke and put Zaha at the sort of 9 position, and really elevated his game and put a whole new dimension to it. Do you want to see more of that this year, or do you think that...
It wasn't even that we shipped out Benteke, it was that we had no strikers. We had Christian Benteke was injured, Connor Wickham was injured. We didn't have anyone else that was a striker apart from youth team players. As far as I can remember now. Hence why Roy started playing this weird... If we were playing 4-4-2, but it was Townsend and Zaha up front, who were basically... So rather than having a striker, we were playing with 2 inverted wingers. And because it was so unpredictable, and Roy even said this in conferences, they were so unpredictable because even they didn't really know what they were supposed to be doing in those moments. But because they were just going on their instincts and getting into positions and making things happen, all of a sudden it started to click. Because, you know, what team knows how to play, what defenders know how to play against 2 wingers that are just in front of them now? They were kind of playing on the edge of the 18-yard box, so not really getting into the centre areas, splitting defences and cutting in. And that really, really worked well. So I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of that, and I wouldn't be surprised.
How do they tap back into that then, but not by accident? Like... That because to me that was the best I've ever seen Zaha play, and he's been very good at different times. But how do they recreate that, but on purpose, as opposed to just like this magical accident that happened?
Well, I don't think Roy Hodgson to me seems like a man who knows his shit and knows what his players can do and what he can get out of them. So I think something like that won't necessarily have been such a sporadic fluke of luck that he thought, oh, maybe this will work, like a chuck of the dice. Obviously, there is the kind of element of you've got no one else to play up there, so it makes sense to play your 2 most creative attacking players up there. So I think as a sort of, not even necessarily a plan B, but it could be a plan A in certain games that we line up that way, to then go back to the traditional having the target man up front as and when we need for an outlet, be that, you know, if we're chasing a game or protecting a lead, just to give you that outlet out there to hold up the ball. I think the good thing it did for Zaha was give him even more confidence and even more quality to his final product, which he'd been questioned on for quite a few years. You know, it's very easy for these players. I remember when we had Zaha and Balassi, you know, 2 incredibly technically gifted and wow highlight reel players that will just amaze you. But, you get sick to death of a guy beating 4 players down the wing, beating the same player 3 times, and then skying across into Rose on the opposite side, which is what Balassi did. So when, Everton signed him for 35 million, I was a bit like, yeah, okay, like, that's cool as long as we keep Zaha, because he's the one who not only is about 3 or 4 years younger, I think, but just had so much more potential.
Yeah, he's still really young.
Yeah, he's 25. So he's still got time. He could even play this season as a striker. He could play off of Benteke. He could play on the wing, but weirdly we don't actually play that much with wingers anymore. We stay more solid there and kind of more defensive. Or I think he could even play as a sole striker now, if we did have to go into, say, sort of like a 4-3-3. Mostly though, I think we'll kind of stick with maybe like a 4-2-3-1 or even 4-4-2 a lot of the time, like we have, because when we've got players like Milivojevic, who obviously most people will know him for banging in penalties left, right and centre and coming out of nowhere, scoring a couple of free kicks as well last season.
Yeah, some beauties.
Very impressive. Yeah, he's very impressive from set pieces. And so we've got him in the middle now with I'd assume Maya would come in there as for where Ruben Loftus-Cheek was playing last year. Andros Townsend, who I actually think he definitely had one of those seasons last year where his stats will just have people write him off. Like, he was crucial in so many games, or he was like the pass to the assist, or he was the one killing himself, busting a gut on the run to spread defenders and everything. So really looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember him cracking into the top 20 or 25 for XG chain, which I mentioned that other week, of like people involved in build-up that eventually led to shot or led to goals. He was very critical to the way they play attacking, so I think the numbers do back that up, even though I don't have them directly in front of me right now.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he still managed to get 9 assists, even though, I think the problem is with Palace is that a lot of their stats will come from the sort of trail end of the season. I think if you take the last 12 games, 10, 11, 12, something like that, and you go by form, Palace were the highest performing squad team in that time. We got more points than everyone, I think, towards the tail end of the season.
Wow.
I think we capped off with like 5 wins in a row at the end, or something like that.
So do you think they overperformed, underperformed, or exactly performed last year, finishing in 11th?
Well, I think Palace do this classic thing if they can't ever string an entire season together. It almost seems like we're confined into calendar years. So if the back end of one season will be great, the beginning of the next season will be great, but then the tail end of that one will be shit, and the beginning of the next one will be shit. So nothing ever really stays into one season. If you took the form of the second half of the season, I think we were in Champions League places. I'd just like to see more consistency. Mid-table obscurity would be just so great. Just a team that just always stays in like 9th or 10th all year. I don't dream big, Oscar. I don't. I want to be able to see the team. I want to be able to see a few goals. And
I think there's a good few squads worse than yours.
Yeah.
That was the weird thing. Like, looking, you mentioned our predictor leagues a couple of times now, and we'll go into that a bit more detail later. But yeah, I did the top 6, I think I kind of took the top 6 and then worked from the bottom up, and then without even intending to, ended up with Palace at 7th, and just kind of went, oh, holy shit. Like, that is, it's not unheard of. Now, I don't necessarily think that's me being overconfident or thinking that Palace necessarily are that superior or whatever, but it's like, Ian, it's like you said with the top 6 once you take out Man City and Liverpool. There's just so much you can justify between them that anything could happen. I mean, that's exactly what I said before with the table last year. You ended up with Burnley on 7th. Burnley, who scored 36 goals and just played consistently strong defensive football all year long. Winning 1-0 here and there. They're on 54 points. Then after that, you had Everton on 49. Then after that, Leicester on 47. And like I said, you dropped 14 points from that, which isn't a ton, and you drop down 10 places to 33 points for Swansea. And, seasons gone by, you had to hit 40 points to stay up. Well, 40 points this year got you 15th place, which is, that's a good performance. We haven't really had a ton of money to spend. We've signed, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but Vicente Guaita, I don't know how to pronounce it. The goalkeeper from Valencia, who was very good in La Liga last year. So we got him on a free. He actually signed in January, but just joined us now. Kuyate we've signed for 10 million. Max Meyer, who, I always used to sign him on FIFA as a wonder kid. I think he was one of the Football Manager Golden Boys as well.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so. A few years ago, he was touted as going to all left, right, and centre places and big teams. And I think his agent just kind of over-egged it a bit and got a bit too precious. And since that, it means that, his contract runs down at Schalke and Palace pick him up on a free. So 3-year deal there. So
yeah, that's a good, sneaky good pickup for free. One player I was surprised to not see Palace not go hard after was Schürrle, who ended up at Fulham of all places.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, Palace were obviously, as much as you can believe with how the media works in transfer windows and XYZ, but Palace were in for Schürrle.
Yeah, I did hear that too. I know he only wanted to come to a London team because he was obviously at Chelsea for a few years and he had a good time and he liked the city of London. And of the London teams looking to replace, he was a natural fit for me for Palace, especially given that Ruben's probably not coming back. I think he has a lot of the same sort of skill set, if not the same position, in terms of progressing the ball at his feet from 40 yards away, like you mentioned, and then being able to sometimes assist, sometimes score, but not having that be his primary function. I think that would have been a good fit for you guys.
Yeah, he hasn't had a great couple of years at Dortmund, as far as I'm aware. He's been kind of that, like I mentioned earlier with Balassi, that kind of player who beats player, gets up to the position, and then just absolutely skies the ball. I don't think his confidence was that great when he was there. So it'll be good to see what happens. And Fulham are very, very interesting this year with the amount of players they've bought and signed. Now they've got Mitrovic there as well on a full-time basis.
Yeah, is he going to win the Golden Boot this year? Or?
What kind of idiot would predict a Mitrovic Golden Boot? But no, I am feeling very good about Palace this year.
Do none of us think that they could even go so high as to upset one of the big 6 teams and sneak in that 6th spot?
I think it would be pretty bold to predict a Leicester-esque.
I was going to say Leicester won the Premier League.
Yeah, but Leicester won Leicester winning the Premier League, not to take anything away from them, because they still had to do it. They still had to win and grind out those 1-0 wins. It was impressive. However, the time was perfect. There were a lot of clubs were in disarray. They were kind of all rebuilding at the same kind of time and not quite knowing where they were. And you had a team like Leicester who, Ranieri knew exactly what he was doing, exactly how he could get the best out of their players, and didn't play any sort of revolutionary way of football. It was just Kante win the ball, give it to Mahrez, lob it to Vardy, who scores. That was just it. We probably said it before, we could never see a team like that winning the league and never again. And we still say the same afterwards, it will never happen again.
Never again.
But I think you're right. I think there's so many wild cards in there that teams, there's teams that if they click, they can be just phenomenal. However, it'd be so easy for them to just drop off.
Yeah, we just said Man City and Liverpool are the only sort of, not even sure bets, because you can never have a sure bet, but at least known quantities. Given how much of a like Ian said before, wild cards, those other 4 top 6 quote unquote teams are, I could easily see one of them falling below Palace. I wouldn't go so far as to actually predict that in my table, but it wouldn't surprise me. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I think of the other teams, either Palace or West Ham might sneak 6th place.
I'd fucking bite your hand off. And then use it to masturbate with. I'd be so fucking happy. Jesus Christ.
Jesus. And on that note, I think that does it for part 1. So when we come back after the break, we will get into some more official prediction games and wrap it up with some listener questions. So stick around and we'll see you in a bit.
Welcome back to Miles Offside podcast, where we've been talking this week about our own teams, Crystal Palace and Chelsea. Last time out we were talking about the rest of the top 6. Now we wanted to move on a little bit onto the other teams, but then we realised we don't know anything about them. So we figured how we'd do it is we just make a bit of a game, and what we've set up is just a little table, little spreadsheet, where you basically rank all 20 teams and how you think they're going to get on this year. So if you want to join in, we haven't decided if there's any sort of prize or anything at the minute. I suppose we could say there's a prize. I can
buy a white T-shirt and some felt tips. I'm sure we can knock something up.
So you'll get some unique branded merchandise, unavailable in the shops.
For good reason.
Should you? Yeah, for very good reason. Because no one would buy it. Should you win the Predictor League, we basically work it out that if you say, for sake of example, Man City are going to finish 5th and they actually finish 1st, then you get 4 points for that. So then we add up the differences for each of your teams.
And you get thrown off a bridge for being a fucking moron.
It's good to have you back, Ian. So we'll throw you off a bridge, the Forth Bridge, Time Weir Bridge, Tower Bridge, some over water, some over rail, some over concrete. We'll let you decide. Should you get it completely fucking wrong. So basically the lowest score wins. So we've done a few already, and we've had a couple of listeners join in. One, Joe Bloom, we've had Carmen Torres, we've had at FPL Nicola get involved. So if you want to get onto our Twitter page, that's at Miles Offside Pod, and get in touch with us, you can either DM us, and you can DM us all of your league predictions, or should you wish, I can send you out the little spreadsheet that you can fill out with your choices. Because I'm very proud of it and I want as many people as possible to see it.
And the winner gets to listen to a special edition podcast of Stimmers giving his thoughts on Peterborough for an hour or so.
Yes.
That's to look forward to.
There you go. Winner, loser, whatever.
Wait, did I say winner? Yeah, I definitely meant loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be doing this as a bit of fun, and we'll keep a running tally for the season. We'll allow entrants up until the end of the first international break. I don't exactly know when that is, but I'm sure if you just look on Twitter and follow any FPL account and see when they're bitching and moaning that there's no Premier League, that's when it will be. So we'll go through a few of our choices just at the start. Ian, who have you got as your sort of top 4, starting from 4 to 1?
4 to 1, okay. 4th place, I've got Manchester United. As I said earlier, the 4 below, I think the 4 below Man City and Liverpool are wildcards. As I've said, there's a lot that could be totally different from last season. So, but yeah, I've gone Man U 4th, Chelsea 3rd, Liverpool 2nd, Man City 1st.
Yeah, I'd kind of have to agree with that because for similar reasoning as you, I've gone for Arsenal in 4th, Chelsea in 3rd, Liverpool in 2nd, and Man City in 1st.
Okay.
And Oscar, how have you gone?
Yeah, I'll go a little different on this one. I'm going to go Man United in 4th, Liverpool 3rd, City 2nd, and Chelsea to win because I'm a big homer, and I don't care if it makes sense. I'm putting Chelsea to win my league. So.
Yeah, and if you have fast-forwarded to this point and heard that, don't listen to the first bit because Oscar, he was really confident that Chelsea were going to win the league, and he gave this really great in-depth analysis on how they're better than every team and how Sarri Ball's going to crush everyone, and they've got all the right players to do it.
Both of you have been all over the place on your clubs.
Yeah. Well, I never bet against my team, so I'm going to put them at first in an official prediction.
Shout, yeah.
Fair shout. How about bottom 3, Oscar? Who are your teams to go down?
I have 18th Brighton, 19th Cardiff, and 20th Wolves. So I don't see the promoted teams doing particularly well, just because it's always hard.
Yeah,
I'm sure Chuck would like a moment to celebrate Brighton going down.
I would just love it just a little bit as a Palace fan for Brighton going down. Because it is a rivalry no matter what anyone says.
Yeah, fuck Brighton.
Yeah, my boy.
I do have them at 20th, but admittedly I don't think I could name a single player on Wolves. So I just hate their jerseys. That's why I put them at 20th.
Not a fan of like the bright orange, yellow.
No.
What colour is that actually?
It's called something, isn't it? It's called something gold. I can't remember.
Shit gold.
Shit gold.
Cheap gold.
Piss.
Asparagus wee wee. Ian, how about your bottom three?
Yeah, my bottom three, I've got 20th Cardiff, 19th Huddersfield, 18th Fulham. Fulham and Cardiff seem wafer thin squad-wise. And yeah, I think Huddersfield got a bit lucky last season, and I think they're probably done. So yeah, I've got Fulham, Huddersfield, Cardiff.
Yeah,
I'm all of a sudden very worried about having Fulham at 11th in my table, given how the predictions went at the World Cup.
Yeah, well, that is the good thing. Some of our teams are all over the shop, so surely one of us will be right. This is what's good. As opposed to, in the World Cup where we just said, Brazil, Germany. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'd go with you on Cardiff and Huddersfield. In fact, I've got them in the same positions. I've got Cardiff in 20th. I just don't think they'll have enough. Huddersfield, exactly the same as you. I think they were lucky last year. Very, very lucky not to get sucked in, and I don't think they've really improved. And similar reason in terms of riding luck, I've gone for Bournemouth in 18th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't really have any justification, but I just think they've ridden their luck for too long now.
They didn't look good last season.
No, they
didn't. I have them
didn't.
at 17th, so you're not far off of my prediction either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
yeah, I've got them at 16th.
Yeah, there you go. So kind of around there, it would make sense.
Yeah,
but
I think they'll struggle.
Yeah, like we said, it could easily be a season again where there's 8 points between the bottom half of the table.
It really could.
So that's kind of a little bit of a taster of ours, but we'll be posting those out and making those public. So they are on our Twitter page. If you have a little look, once again at Miles Offside Pod. We do have some predictions though that we're making that we're not going to make public, and we're going to wait till the end of the season.
Not even to each other.
Yeah, we don't even know each other's ones of what we're going to pick for these. So we kind of went for 5 kind of classic categories. So we've gone for the player with the golden boot, the
Mitrovic.
team. I told you not to look at mine. God damn it, Oscar.
God damn it.
The team with the most clean sheets. The number of total goals across the league all year. So that's all 380 games. The same for league cards. So that's yellow and red cards combined. And also in a little bit off centre, left field, shall we say, the correct term, who's going to win the Champions League this year. And so what we've all done is we've all come up with those, and then we've sent them off to good friend and resident question giver Dave Matteo, or Dave Stateo as you prefer, and we've sent them off to him. So if you want to play along and you're going to pick your own categories, well, not pick your own categories, pick your own answers, sorry, just draft them up in a message and send them to Dave. If you go onto his Twitter page, it's at Dave_Matteo. That's Matteo. Just DM them over to him, and he'd be more than happy to put them into a little spreadsheet for you. He is a statistician, so he loves it. And yeah, he will be the guardian of the answers until the end of the season. And then we'll have some sort of forfeit or prize for the winner, I guess, out of the 3 of us.
And given that he is a statistician, this would probably be the first time that anyone slides all up in his DMs. So I'm sure he would love that.
Oh, Dave!
From one nerd to another, love you, Dave.
Maths shade.
Also, it should be noted that we didn't ask Dave if we could send all of our listeners to his DMs. So
which is why I implore you even more, guys, all of you at home, please go onto Twitter at Dave_Matteo and just DM him all 5 categories and all 5 answers. No preamble, no build up. Zero context. Just send it to him. And
just names and numbers.
Yeah, and he'll be more than happy to oblige, I'm sure. He might, maybe.
Or we've lost our favourite listener.
I know, our one loyal listener is like, fuck you guys, I quit.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we've got for predictions and some stuff that you guys can get involved in. Yeah, but then Oscar's got a little game that he wants to run between the 3 of us for this year. Oscar?
Yeah, so if you listen to all our episodes so far, you know that I really, really like Michael Cayley and Michael Goodman. They're 2 of my favorite writers, along with Michael Cox. And Cayley and Goodman have their own... You do love Cox. No comment.
I've waited 9 weeks to say that.
Oh, I enjoyed that.
Cayley and Goodman have their own podcast called the Double Pivot Podcast. And what they did, I think they did this last year or 2 years ago, I don't remember exactly when, was they basically drafted teams instead of players and had an ongoing competition all season to see which guy's set of teams did better. So we kind of adopted that to the format with the three of us. And so what we're going to do is do a classic snake draft. So like 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1. And Chuck, do you have the draft order in front of you?
I do. So the order will be Mr. Ian Stimpson.
Yes.
Getting first pick out the gate. Then it will be Oscar, and then it will be me taking up the rear.
And then we'll circle back around in the other direction. So Chuck, me, Ian, going back and forth. So we're going to pick 4 teams each, gentlemen. And the winner / the way that the table will be calculated is not just on who's in first, who's in second in the actual Premier League table, but how many points they have. So let's say that City finished with 100 points. If Ian had City, he would get 100 points towards his total. If he then also had, let's say, Tottenham, who had 77, he'd have 177 as his score.
So we're going to keep a tally going week by week, yeah?
Yep, we'll keep a running tally going. And then the combination of the 4 teams that we each have will determine how we're doing. So figure as a way to sort of bring in shorter but better predictions for the whole league. Since we did only kind of really focus on top 6 and Palace, we'll give everybody about 45 seconds on the clock, 60 at most, to sort of make their pick and then justify their prediction of why they chose that team where they did. And we'll make our way through 4x3, 12 teams each, or 12 teams total, rather. And then we'll just keep track of that all year long. So how does that sound to you, gentlemen?
Sounds good to me, buddy.
All right, so as noted, Ian will be starting us off. So Ian, 45 seconds on the clock. Who do you want?
I will take Man City.
You should... Sorry, first answer will be sticking.
I said car. Man City. Yeah, as I say, one of the only teams that I think hasn't changed a great deal other than strengthened. So if you're buying Mahrez, that's even more depth. I mean, yeah, they've got to be the favourites. So it's a pretty easy first pick for me, Man City.
All right, excellent. And coming in at only 32 seconds, so you have a little 10-second plug there if you want to say anything.
My second album. No, don't worry about it.
All right, I'm going up next. 45 seconds on the clock. I'm going to take my beloved Chelsea. I don't actually think they'll finish in second, but I do want to have them to root for, just because I don't want any of you fuckers to be happy if they're doing well. So they're mine, all mine. You can't have them. And that's it. Hopefully Sarri does really well, and they figure out the system and the players, and Ruben has an amazing season, and Hazard wins the Ballon d'Or. So, Chelsea.
So does that mean... Oh, that means I get 2 picks, so I've got like a minute and a half. My first pick, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to go for Liverpool. I think they're obviously a very, very exciting team that can get a lot of points on the board. You know they're going to go for every game, and even more now that they have a more solid back line because they've strengthened both goalkeeper and defensive mid, that they are going to absolutely shine this year. I think that unbelievably the shackles will come off even more for that team. And then second pick, this is so fucking hard because I know there's fuck you, Oscar's got it in my head. I'm gonna have to take Palace now, simply because I know that by the time we get round to 9, they'll be gone, and I can't have anyone else taking them. And I'm going full bold, and I don't want Man United because they're dog shit.
Oh, that makes my choice a lot harder. I didn't think that I would have them still to pick from, but I guess I'm going to take Man United here. So, thank you for that. There is a huge downside, as we talked about last week, with Man United and Mourinho in his 3rd season. But, like I said last week, their talent, Lukaku, Pogba, Sanchez, now that he's been more integrated fully, they might actually be competing for the title, let alone going for 4th place. So I'm going to take United there.
Right, I'm up. Wow, okay. I will go Arsenal. I think, as I've said, they're a bit of an unknown quantity, but I think Oscar's convinced me about Tottenham's potential fall. So, yeah, I feel like I'm rolling the dice, really. But yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal for no other reason than I think Tottenham are going to possibly struggle early on. So
Excellent.
I get Arsenal to win out.
Okay, and you get back-to-back picks here, so another
That's
45
me again,
seconds
is
on the
it?
clock.
Okay, in that case, I can choose both of them. I'll have Tottenham.
I was going to say, the way you were setting yourself up, I don't think either of us were going to say anything.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Arsenal and Tottenham then. Lovely. North London done.
Ideally, this is where I would have taken Palace, but they're gone. So I'm going to go with... this is tough. I'm going to go West Ham. I think West Ham have made some really good pickups this summer. They had an absolutely shit season last season, but I think they're going to make some noise this year. At least in terms of the same as Palace. Those are the two teams I could see pushing for a Europa spot. So I'm going to go West Ham.
Yeah, I was kind of eyeing them up as well. I think you're right. I think they've made some really good purchases. And Pellegrini as well, who, we haven't mentioned that fact, We've got a Premier League winning manager there. Now I just get left with a dumpster fire of shit. And I get to pick two of them.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to go... First up, I'm going to go with Leicester. Because I think Leicester still do have, quality in the side. And they've picked up quite a few players as well, and kind of built a bit of a squad out of obviously selling Mahrez, and they could still have some people coming in. So I fancy them. I still fancy them, to be pushing for top half. They should at least. In fact, I think in our predictor I had them at 8th. So I think that's a comfortable good amount of points there.
25 seconds for your next pick.
For my next pick, you're such a prick. Doesn't matter because I've already typed it in, so I've technically made my pick. I'm just wasting your time, and I'm going to go for Southampton. Southampton because I think Southampton will take a bit of a bump from last year. I think last year was a blip where they kind of went shit for a while, and I think Mark Hughes as an attacking side will do quite well this year.
I agree fully with that Southampton. I do worry about Leicester though. Selling Mahrez, he was the last really good player other than Vardy from that season. But for my pick, I'm going to take Fulham. I know I could go Everton there, and that's kind of like the standout name of the people left, but I love Fulham's signings this summer. They're also Chelsea's closest neighbors, so, a little West London love their way, because they're not actually a threat. But, and Schürrle. I like Schürrle. He's a former Chelsea player. He's German. So, Fulham.
You say West London love. I don't think you've been around that area on Derby Day. It's anything but love, buddy.
Wow. Okay. We've gone through a 11-team draft and Everton haven't gone. I did not expect that. So now I'm left because I had a real wild card pick of Wolves ready to go. Because everyone's gone so low on them and now do I go Everton or Wolves? I've got to play it safe. I'll go Everton then.
All right,
Everton for my last pick. I just feel like they're such such a nothing pick, really. But yeah. I suppose I've got to play it safe with 11 teams gone and Everton not there. I'll go Everton. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 14th. It's really. I have no idea where to place them, to be honest.
It's funny you say that because both me and Oscar do have Everton at 14th in the Predictor League.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think I was saying
and after I'm slagging them off, I've got them at 7th, but I just didn't know where to put them. Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of take on it is I think Everton are going to be shit this year. I think they're going to suffer for Allardyce overspending. My
thought out, considered take is that Everton are going to be shit.
No, I don't think. Oh, fuck you. I think everyone's so hot on Marco Silva, and I think Marco Silva is one of the most overrated managers that's in the Premier League. He was at Hull. Yeah, he did okay for a while, but he got relegated. He was then at Watford, and obviously that turned into a mess. And he got binned from there, and now he's at Everton, who last year were a bit of a mess. So I just don't see him being the kind of person that comes in with an influence and steadying the ship, and helping them to kick on in that way.
God, I'm regretting putting him in 7th.
Yeah, all right.
Change these. No.
No,
the results
sorry,
of the draft,
no.
Ian, you're looking pretty good. The results are...
Yeah.
Stimmers has City, Arsenal, Spurs, and Everton as his 4.
Fucking hell.
So
Yeah, to be fair, Ian's one.
I have Chelsea, United, West Ham, and Fulham.
Yeah.
And Chuck has Liverpool, Palace, Leicester, and Southampton.
Yep.
So I think that's one for second and third right there.
Yep.
So good job, Stimmers. But we'll keep that running all season long, so we'll just have a check-in on that every week, see how everybody's doing. We'll make a spreadsheet for that, nice and, a beautiful Chuck spreadsheet, so he can have something else to be proud of, because he's certainly not proud of his picks there. And
No. And I've still got 2 months till my child's born, so guys, I've got time.
Nothing else to be proud of at all.
No, not yet.
That wraps it up for the draft competition. Like I said, we'll keep you guys updated with that all year long. And that should bring us to listener questions. Stimmers, take it away.
Yeah, indeed. So we had an interesting one from Carmen, who we've known for a while, being a Gaffer Tapes listener. So Gaffer Tapes listeners, as you guys know, are known as the Gafferazzi. And I'm not sure how that was coined, actually. I must admit, I can't remember. But Carmen's wondering what listeners of this podcast should be called. Have you guys got any thoughts on that?
All 5 of them?
Yeah. If you could just phone your mum, Oscar.
Yeah, what do you want to be called?
Oh, come on now. Like we're up to 7 listeners, Oscar.
That's fair
It's
enough.
not 5 anymore, as long as we need to break it above the episode number, though, the number of episodes we've done. Anyway, where were we? Nicknames. Names for thing. One thing I did see, I thought it was quite cool, is a friend of ours, Dan Tiller, is at my_name_is_Dan on Twitter. He said that he'd started listening to us and called us MOP, because obviously, Miles Offside Podcast, abbreviates to MOP. So I thought, what about the MOP heads?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
It.
Yeah.
I gotta start. You have to get a wig, though, to be a fan.
I mean, yeah. I can grow my hair out again as well.
I'm about a year away from needing a wig anyway, so...
That's being generous.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
It's fucked up. So if you do want to be an official mop head, go ahead and get a Beatles wig and change your profile picture, and we can officially incorporate you into the Miles Offside podcast family. So
yeah,
that'd be nice.
You too can dream of being a mop head.
And we got our regular Dave Mateo question. He might not be listening after next week, so this might be the last one.
Yeah, so if you do want to get in contact with him, please go on his Twitter and just DM him.
Yeah.
Send him predictions for this year.
And then replace him by sending in a question every week, please. But Dave said, if Premier League managers were to be MMA fighters, who would be the best?
Ooh, I like
that. That is an excellent question.
Yeah.
I like that one. Chuck, do you want to start us off there?
There's so many different... I don't watch a ton of MMA, I've got to say.
Yeah, me neither, actually. I don't know the rules exactly.
It's just no eye gouging, fish hooking, or kicking people in the bollocks.
So Mourinho's out.
Yeah, Mourinho's out. He loves a gouge. So Mourinho would be disqualified straight away.
Unless we want to make it like an all-out street fight.
Yeah.
No, we've got to stick to MMA rules, I think.
All right.
Oh, so it can't be like Rocky 5?
That never happened.
The worst of the Rockies?
Which sucks coming after Rocky 4 because it's the best of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Gotta love a bit of USA shorts.
Man, USA. James Brown singing Living in America. Dolph Lundgren, the Swedish actor, playing a Russian.
Just penciling in for international break Rocky chat. Carry on.
Dolph Lundgren, who incidentally the player who plays for Palace, one of our strikers, Alexander Sørloth, looks exactly like Ivan Drago. It's fucking amazing. He's about the same height as Dolph Lundgren as well. He's like this 6'5" fucking brick shithouse who's like 20 years old.
Oh, Dolph Lundgren is like a super genius physicist with 5 PhDs or some ridiculous...
Really?
Not literally 5 PhDs, but he's one of the smartest human beings on the planet.
Yeah, it's like chemical engineer or something like that, I think he technically is.
He has a doctorate and like several other graduate degrees.
I had no idea.
Yeah, man's not just a body. It's not just about body mass, you know.
I'm fucked then.
Yeah, but you could like make some gizmos with your sound engineering stuff, right? So make like a death laser or something to destroy everybody.
Huh.
No,
Oh.
I mean, I could probably make you shit yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be the brown note, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's about it.
in fairness, it's not that hard to make me shit myself. That happens.
You did just get back from Guatemala.
How was Guatemala?
Cleansing. It was cleansing in more ways than one.
So we've completely ignored the question, by the way.
Yeah, pretty much. So how's Roy Hodgson getting on in MMA?
Hodgson. Oh, I don't think Hodgson would. I wouldn't fancy him anymore. I think back in the day, there's pictures of him. He looked a bit like a spy, so I think it'd be like quite dodgy. Pull out some gadget when the ref's not looking and stab the guy in the throat. I don't know.
Well, I'll take Jurgen Klopp. How about that? I'll start us off. Because he is genuinely terrifying with the way he runs around on the sidelines and the faces he makes. I think like just by his pure fear factor alone, if he just screamed at someone, they would cower and tap out. So I'm going to go with Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, I'd take that. Just for pure aggression, you got a fancy Klopp. I got Sean Dyche.
I was just about to say, actually, Sean Dyche has got to be up there, surely.
He's a brawler though. Like he's gonna stand there. He's gonna slug. He's not gonna be that technical.
Oh yeah.
He's just gonna.
There's gonna be no holds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd worry about him getting disqualified, just like Mourinho bringing a lead pipe into the ring or something.
Yeah, I'd let him do it though.
Yeah.
I'm not stopping him.
So if it was a knockout competition, the final would be Sean Dyche versus Jurgen Klopp. That's what we think.
We think so. Who would you go for, Ian?
Yeah, well, no, I think Sean Dyche. He's got to be, hasn't it? Really, he scares the shit out of me. That voice is ridiculous. I mean, from a sound engineer's point of view, I'm like, what the fuck are you?
It's like a blender full of gravel.
Bournemouth, Eddie Howe.
Oh no, wet.
Yeah.
He'd get his face kicked in.
Really?
Yeah, he'd be like that guy in. It was Jared Leto in Fight Club. You know, and he's I just wanted to destroy something beautiful without being beautiful.
I don't know. We're sleeping on Mourinho. Like, even without being allowed to eye gouge, I think he's just crazy.
I think you've said it before. He'd find a way to win. There's definitely that about him.
That is true.
Yeah, he'd be like distracting the ref while someone else comes up from behind with a steel chair. And
Rafa Benitez?
Oh, no, fuck Rafa. Fuck that guy.
I wasn't genuinely suggesting Rafa Benitez could beat up Sean Dyche or anyone. I was just saying another manager is what I was doing.
Here's my in-depth analysis on Rafa Benitez. Fuck that guy.
Fair enough. Pochettino, maybe?
Nah.
He's big on fitness.
He's big on fitness. He'd run around. Claude Puel, not happening.
Right. No one's mentioned Pep.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, but Pep may be too busy wearing like an All Saints jumper or something, or like he wouldn't make it out the dressing room. He'd be just like,
he'd try to overthink it too and be like, "Oh, I'll come up with this crazy tactic where I stand in the corner on one foot and then blah blah blah," and then all of a sudden he just gets knocked out.
Using tactics with his intro music and just playing the brown note into the into the stadium. It's just like
he hires Ian to sit in the crowd.
Yeah, I've got Pep's back. Yeah, I'm not sure any closer to answering the question.
No, Mark Hughes. Oh, it'd be good.
Oh, who's Huddersfield's manager? Is it still
Wagner? Yeah, the bloke that was on X Factor.
Yeah. Yeah, he could probably handle himself, couldn't he? Surely.
Yeah, but I just can't take him seriously because his voice is like the stereotypical like hello, softly spoken German. You know what I mean?
This is coming down to voice, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. It's like, well, we played very well and not like it's very kind of squeaky. That's not a German voice. That's my attempt at Wagner.
Yeah.
Well, and whenever the first firing of the season happens, then you know if there's a wrestling type thing involved, and all of a sudden who appears but John Cena.
That'd be great. John Cena is the new Bournemouth manager.
Yeah. Oh, I just watched that movie he's in on one of the flights I was taking this weekend. Cockblockers. That guy's comedic timing is surprisingly good.
He's really good in like loads of films I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's really funny.
Well, wrestlers have got a good acting pedigree, haven't they? Dwayne Johnson, Hulk Hogan, seen him in some great videos.
Oh,
Oh God.
Speaking of, you just mentioned it. Like, who do you think is the first manager to get sacked this year?
Oh shit! Yeah, we haven't done the sack race, have we?
That's a good question. Putting me on the spot here. I'm gonna go with.
Go with your gut. Go with your gut.
Who's managing? What was the Everton manager's name? The one you don't like?
Marco Silva.
Yeah, him. I think I want to change my answer to Pochettino, actually.
You can't change your answer.
Well, I'm doing it anyway, so fuck you.
Oh, Joe, I'm going to go Wagner, actually. Wagner.
So you're going Wagner. Oscar, you're going Pochettino.
Yeah, I think he lost the dressing room. I think the players really are going to... I could see a revolt happening there, not far into the season.
Can this also include managers leaving? I'm going to go for Rafa Benitez, because I think, because of all the stuff he did last year at Newcastle, for what he was supposedly promised, and how he's looked recently, considering they spent no money and all they've done is sold players. They're not really looking like they're going to get anyone substantial in or worthwhile. Yeah. I just think bad blood there. He's just going to go.
Surprised he stayed as long as he has.
Because
that management structure is pretty rotten.
Yeah, they're not looking to do anything of note.
No. I mean, how long have Newcastle been on the market?
Yeah. And no one, it's a toxic asset. Like, no one wants anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Is he the worst owner in the Premier League, do you guys think?
Mike Ashley. I think certainly the worst owner in the public eye.
Yeah, definitely. I would not want him being the public owner of my club. Jesus.
No, 100%. And, because below that, you've kind of got, I'd say, like Karen Brady and Golden Sullivan at West Ham. But that's not saying it's anywhere near close to Newcastle.
Yeah, Mike Ashley's just a boorish prick, isn't he? I mean, I really dislike him.
Mm-hmm.
Love a Sports Direct mug, though.
They're massive.
Fucking huge.
It's like a litre of tea. It's great.
Lovely.
But I don't drink tea, so it doesn't really matter.
Neither do I, but you can stick wine in it.
Hey, job done.
Or Lithuanian Jägermeister.
To be fair, I was drinking that out of a plastic pint mug, so there you go. Pretty
sure I saw you drinking it straight out of the bottle, man.
I was going to say, at one point, definitely, mainlining it.
Guys, I don't remember.
We know.
Yeah, so if you've got any questions, get them into us on Twitter at Miles Offside Pod, at Facebook at Miles Offside Pod, and also I run a Fantasy Premier League cash game, so if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter at Ian Stimson, Stimson. And like Chuck said, we're keen to get as many of you involved in the Predictor League as possible. So if you want to DM us with your 1 to 20 Premier League predictions, or email us milesoffsidepod@gmail.com, then we'd like to get as many of you as possible. I mean, I'm sure we can come up with a prize or something if any of you manage to beat us. So, get in touch.
I like that. You're like, we'll think of a prize, but we don't think you're going to beat us.
Listen, we're like less than 10 episodes in. We've got no budget. Maybe later we'll have a budget. I don't know. But at the minute, I'm recording on an ironing board. So what do you want?
And he's a sound engineer, guys.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of wraps it up for episode 9, guys. We're nearly in the double digits.
Yay!
Kind of another little milestone. We've been ticking up quite nicely in listener increases and stuff, so thank you guys for carrying on listening. Some people even going back to listen to our Group E to H predictions of the World Cup, which I find astonishing. It's like a little time machine.
I love that.
I love it. Great. Thanks, Oscar's mum, for consistently listening to how we think Brazil were going to get on at the World Cup. It does tickle us every time we see those early ones go up. So keep listening, guys, if you do want to go back and listen to where it all began. Just follow us, like, share. We still do need some reviews. We've had a few more come in on iTunes, so thank you to all of those people. It's much, much appreciated because obviously it's helping us to get out there more. So yeah, wherever you are based in the world, specifically America, because our ranking doesn't show up yet if you're in the US. So give us a 5-star review on iTunes, or if you can, review us on wherever you get your pods. Review us there. Unless we're not 5 stars, in which case,
Yeah, just leave it.
Yeah, just leave it. So thank you very much, guys, for contributing. Anything else to add, guys?
Be sure to DM Dave Mateo
Yes.
as much as you can, everybody. Steak recipes, candy that you like.
Golden boot, number of goals,
unsolicited
number
pictures.
of cards, number of inches, colour of underwear, at Dave_Mateo.
Oh, poor old Dave. Poor Dave doesn't deserve this.
No dick pics,
yeah,
though,
come
guys.
on.
No dick pics.
Come on.
That's just
Come
that's
on,
just
chat.
crass.
Stop doing that.
Uncalled for.
I've already been banned from Twitter once for that, so I can't do it again. Right, on that night, guys, let's just get out.
Yeah.
It's too late now. It's nearly midnight here. This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, Oscar.
Thanks.
When Oscar says that, it feels like it's going to be the last time we ever hear from him. He's done.
Thank you, guys. Been a good time.
Tell your face.
I'm done. Bye.